Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, in this episode we create an amazing sunset. Bonjour mesdames et messieurs and welcome to episode 74 of my photography, Lightroom and Photoshop tips. My name is Serge Ramelli. I'm a French photographer living in Paris, France, and I'm right now traveling through the US. I'm in Florida. I will soon be going to Los Angeles. In last episode, I showed you one of my favorite photos of all time, a panorama of the Mont Saint-Michel in Bretagne, Normandy. Actually, it's in Normandy, not in Bretagne. It's really at the border of both. And that I shot with Scott Kelby a while back in France. And I really love that photo. So check it out. It's a nice story and I think it can give you inspiration. Plus, I give you all the raw files to recreate it. Continuing on favorite photos, here is this week's photography. That's the before photo. And that's the after. And the whole concept is how to create amazing sunsets, which are sometimes lacking in some of the photos. Plus, I'm starting a new competition. Before we get started on the tutorial, I just want to tell you that I still have a discount going on, which you can see here on my website and use to get any of my training at the best price. All right, so let's get started and let me show you how I do this amazing sunset and how that photo competition is going to work. Alright, so in this tutorial I'm going to show you how I retouched a photo I took in Cassis in the south of France, close to Marseille. It's one of my favorite photos I've done for quite a while, and I want to show you how I did it, really from start to finish, and give you a few tips along the way. Plus, we have a little competition whereby if you try to apply the techniques that we're going to be doing in this tutorial and send me the photo to this email, competition@photosearch.com, the winner so basically the idea, you just send me like small JPEGs before and after using this type of technique, so like sunset type of landscapes. And the nicest photo I will offer for free my new interior design professional training course. I've been a professional interior designer, photographer for the last 8 years. I've shot over 200 hotels in Paris. And so I made a good living out of it, and I just made like a full course giving away all my secrets. It's coming out on Thursday, and the one who gives me the nicest photo of a sunset retouch with Lightroom with the techniques I'm going to teach today will get that course for free. Also, just a little tip, if you want to get that raw file, I'm offering it for free. All you have to do is go to my website, which is here, photosearch.com. You click on news, sign up, and you sign up for my newsletter, and you will get a confidential link. On that link, you will get all the raw files for all the podcasts. Right. So before we get started, I just want to give you a few technical data about how I shot this photo. If you press, let me just get some place here. I'm going to put that down, and I'm going to press I. Okay, so you can see this photo was shot at f/18 ISO 100 and with 6-second exposure time. Obviously, I was on a tripod for 6 seconds, and I forced in to have a long exposure because normally when I shoot a landscape, I'm at f7.1 or f8. But in this case, I get pretty fast shutter speed, and when you get fast shutter speed, you don't get this sort of smoky water. The smoky water you only get after 2-3 seconds. The water was really like, there was really wave going, and I wanted to go for something a bit like this, you know, a bit smoky. I love that look, you know, because it makes a contrast between smoky stuff and rock stuff. So to achieve that, I closed down my aperture to f/18 to force a long exposure. Plus I put on a polarizing filter so that less light would come into the camera, and it would go to 6 seconds because it was still pretty bright. It was a nice sunset. And so I achieve 6 seconds. The problem is that when you go over f11, you have a lot of spots. And check this out. I have tons of spots because I was shooting all day at the beach and changed a couple of times the lens. So probably some dust came into it. But the dust become very visible above f9 or f10. So f18, it's very visible. So that's the problem. Okay, now I want to talk to you about focusing. A lot of people ask me, but on what do you focus? You know, what's the secret behind your focusing? Your photos are very sharp. You know, I do nothing special of the focus, and I have never done it. I just, unless I'm doing a portrait, if it's a landscape, I just leave it on autofocus and make sure that my aperture is at least above 7, and I never have a sharpness problem. The only important thing is to use a timer, never to press the shutter with your finger. You either use a remote or a 2-second timer, so that when the photo is taken, there is no contact with the camera. That is the real secret with a nice tripod to have a sharp photo. Now, also, a lot of people have been asking me, like, how do you shoot? What type of, are you shooting evaluative mode? Or what type of things are you shooting? On most camera, you've got 3 types of mode that will evaluate the light. You've got the evaluative mode, the centered weight average metering, and the spot metering. I always, for landscape, use the evaluate metering. Basically, the whole idea of the evaluate metering is that it's going to take into account everything that's in the scene to calculate the speed and the f-stop. Now, as I said, I always shoot manual, meaning that what I did is I put f18 and I tried 4 seconds. 4 seconds, it was too dark. So then I tried 8 seconds, it was too bright. So then I put on 6 seconds. I always shoot manual because I just look behind behind my camera and look at the final photo on the live view, on the preview, and I can tell if it's too bright or too dark. And if it's too bright, then I just change. If it's too bright, I make the time shorter. If it's too dark, I make the time longer. That's it. That's all there is to it. Because once I have, the settings that I like, I take about 20 shots, maybe a bit more on the right, a bit more on the left, until I got the perfect composition. This was, for me, the perfect composition. But anyways, the photo is already, the raw file is pretty dramatic, but it's lacking a lot of, there's like no sunset there. And it was actually a true sunset. But the sunset, we're going to recreate it completely in Lightroom. We're going to reveal it, and we're going to add to it. I'm going to try to put back emotion in this photo, how I lived it as I shot it. And maybe I'm going to exaggerate a bit because I like very saturated and very crazy sunset. And the whole idea is to recreate a sunset on a pretty, washed out, not washed out, but, lacking of colors type of photo. So let's go and do the retouching. I'm going to open up the shadows. As you know, I do that all the time, and bring down the highlights. Nothing new under the sun there. And then I'm going to press the Alt key and move my white slider to the right until I see some points coming up. Ooh, these points are coming up, so I'm going to back it down a little bit to not get any burnt lights. That's kind of cool. And now I'm going to press the Alt key and use the blacks to go to the left until there's more drama. And usually I go a bit further than the whites, meaning the whites, there was no white point. But on the blacks, there's a lot of black points. Look at this. It's going to make a big drama. Maybe not that much. I'm going to brighten up a little bit the photo, just a tiny bit. Add a bit of clarity. Now, clarity is going to take saturation off. I don't necessarily want that. But I like the, the contrast. Especially clarity works well with the rocks. It's already pretty crazy. Let's see if there's a before and after. No. All right. So, let's continue. Now, I'm going to crop this photo before we carry on. I want to make sure that the horizon line is very straight, so I'm going to take the angle. I'm going to click here. Click and, oops. Okay, escape. I made a mistake. Let's go back on this. I don't know what I did. Okay, click and hold down the mouse. Follow the horizontal line. Okay, now it's straight. I want to take a bit of some of these rocks here a little bit. I just want to make it a bit more pano. Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Press enter. It's more dynamic this way. Okay, that's kind of cool. And now here is the secret of making that photo from an okay photo to wow, homepage of 500px type of photo. It's, bring on the light, as we say. So the whole secret is with the brush tool. And the entire secret to make this a bit more realistic is you have to put your brush feather at 100, so the brush is very smooth. And then the flow and density, you start off at around 50%. 50% on flow and 50% density. That is how much paint is going to be thrown at the brush. That's the whole idea of that, So it's the intensity of the flow and the density of the brush. Now that brush, the only thing I'm going to do is add some yellow to it and add a bit of red. I'm going to make first a big brush, and I'm gonna brush here all along, and it's gonna start adding a little color cast of yellow and red to this part. Okay, you can add a bit more red maybe, and a bit more yellow. If you think nothing happened, check it out. Before that brush stroke, after that brush stroke, it's very light, but we want to do it by gradient. Now I click on New. All right, I click on New, and this time I'm gonna get the flow a bit higher, like 70, and density a bit higher, 73. I'm gonna make my brush a bit smaller, you know, but still pretty big. And now I'm gonna brush again some yellow. I'm basically making a gradient, okay? And then I'm gonna get, maybe add a bit of red on this one, all right? And then I'm gonna create a new brush. And this time I'm gonna get the flow around 80 and the density around 80. And maybe a bit more red because we're getting closer to the sun. And I'm just gonna do a much smaller brush stroke just where the sun is. Okay, maybe this one I'm gonna add a bit of lower exposure in it. I just wanna make, yeah, the sunshine. And you know, the whole idea is to get the sun back, you know, because that sunshine was there, but to be honest, it was a bit more on the right. So I'm like cheating a little bit, but it was a bit, you know, how it felt. But you know, sometimes you lose sunset, especially with long exposure. So let me show you, sorry, let me take the brush. Let me show you before the brush, after the brush. We got the sun back in the picture, which is cool. But I want to do some more brush work. You know, I spent all this energy trying to get a long exposure because I had to wait at least 20 minutes so it get dark enough so I would get that long exposure because I wanted to get the fuzzy water. So I want to put attention on it, and you know how it works. You know, the eyes goes to the brightest part of the photo. So let's double click on this to put this down to 0, and let's just boost the exposure. Flow is 80, density is 80, I like that. And let's add a bit of white here. I want to put more attention on the fuzziness, you know. Ooh, it's already something very nice. Okay, and a new brush. I want to add some details here, just a little bit here, and a little bit here on the rocks maybe. Okay, maybe not that much, but something like that. So check it out, before the brush strokes, after the brush strokes. Ooh, it's already getting something pretty spectacular. Now let's go down into details, and let's deal with the sharpening and the noise. So here we come to the sharpening. Now this photo hardly has any noise at all because it was really properly exposed. Probably that, yeah, 100 ISO, you know, not too dark, not too bright. So when there is not much noise, what I usually do is I just take out like 10 of noise, and then I have this rule where I take always the number 100 and deduct the noise. So that means I'm going to put my sharpening at 90. But that's going to give me a very sharp photo, and I love it. You know, it's like raw development. Yeah, look at this. It's super sharp. Super sharp. C'est magnifique. Magnifique, magnifique. So now, I'm pretty happy with that, but I think the colors is not exactly right. A sunset has more red into it, and I want to show you that you can alter the color pretty much with the very powerful, but you have to be very, you know, subtle about it, is the hue, saturation, and luminance. I'm going to go to the hue slider. The whole idea of the hue slider is that it alters, you know, it changes the color. You know, colors goes, for example, you know, you've got here red, orange, yellow, green, aqua, blue, purple, magenta. Okay, on the red, for example, if you go to the left, anything which is a bit reddish is going to get more reddish, which could be cool on this one. Okay, if you go to the right, it's going to get more yellow and orange. So, but one thing is make sure you try not to go over like 20 or 30. You know, just try to stay in the middle on these values. Otherwise, it can create some really weird stuff. So I'm gonna alter anything which is a bit orange, get it a bit more toward the red. Okay, what about this? No, this is not nice, so I'm not gonna touch this one. And the yellows, that could be cool. Yeah, let's check it out. No, that's more very green. That's more very yellow toward the yellow. That can be kind of cool. Okay, now I'm gonna go to saturation and just maybe add a little bit of saturation on the orange and on the yellow. Yeah, just to be a bit crazy. Okay. Check it out, before, after. It's pretty subtle, but what it does is that it just brings more saturation and more, you know, the sun is more there, right? I'm already starting to like the result. Okay, and next, I'm gonna, one thing you can do when you do this type of thing, you can always try to go to camera landscape. I don't think it's gonna work on this one. Yeah, Not at all. You see how it got like all reddish and weirdo? No, let's go away from that. Sometime the camera calibration, and that only works on RAW files, will give you a better result using camera landscapes than than Adobe Standard. That's for Canon RAW files only. If you've got Nikon RAW files or Sony RAW files, you will not get the same settings, but you usually have standard and landscape. So you got to give it a try. What camera calibration is, and I repeat, it's just a way to interpret the RAW file, a different way, a different perspective, a different view. You know, the funny thing about retouching is that whenever you take a photo with your camera as a JPEG format, you are letting the camera retouch the photo for you based on the picture style which is set in your camera. When you use Lightroom like I'm doing now, it is you who is retouching the photo, and you're not letting an electronic device based on a database to retouch the photo. So it gives you more power, more freedom, and you can communicate more your vision. This was my vision of the scene, you know. Okay, now last but not least, I want to make a vignette that's really is going to fit with that photo. So for this, I'm going to take the ND filter here, and I'm going to get the exposure lower. I'm just going to make a filter for the sky. Now, one thing you need to watch for, and I get a lot of this type of photos, whenever you have people, you know, whenever you retouch a photo with like a great sky, try to not get the clouds to be too dark. You know, clouds are not that dark. So, you know, whenever it gets really dark, it's not good. So right now I'm exaggerating, so you know what I'm talking about. But I'm going to back it down just a tiny bit. Yeah, these clouds are a bit dark, but that's it. You know, I don't want these clouds to be darker than that because it becomes too much HDR unrealistic. So that's one thing I'm going to watch for during the competition, is that it's got to be, okay, it can be oversaturated and wow, but not too much HDR looking and not too much is like really, you know, very aggressive clouds, basically. Try to make the clouds not so aggressive. That's why I like to shoot long exposure, because with long exposure, the clouds gets a bit more fuzzy, you know, I think it's more interesting. All right, so now that I got a top vignette that's going for me, I'm gonna do a bottom vignette. You know, basically it's the same idea. I make a big filter and then I take that center point and back it down. So it just darkens a bit here, you know. It's not a huge thing, but it makes a sort of a natural frame. It gets you inside of the photo. Okay. Now, last but not least is, now that I shot at f/18, I've got all these spots here. And that's hell. That's really hell. And there's two ways to deal about it. Either you have got Lightroom and you've got patience. In this case, you take the spot removal tool, which is here. You make, with the middle mouse, the size that you want, just a bit bigger than the spot. And you take the time to do one by one. And I've got quite a few, and it's just hell. It's just hell. But there was no way around, you know, I couldn't clean my lens. I wanted to get 6 seconds of exposure. I just really wanted to have it. That was really important for me because I wanted to get the fuzzy clouds and I wanted to get the fuzzy water. So yeah, it's going to take for ages. So I just show you a trick in case you do have Photoshop that I find is much faster, and that's what I do. What I do is I open the photo in Photoshop. So right click, edit in Photoshop CC, because that's what I'm using, Photoshop CC. And all right, here it comes. Here it comes. It's reading the camera raw format with all the retouching I've done so far in Lightroom. It's going to create a separate TIFF file, and that's what we're going to be working on. All right, so here I'm going to duplicate the background layer, zoom in with the Z key on the sky. And then I take the spot hitting brush tool, make it very small. So the way to make it small is press the Control and Alt key and just go to the left to make it small, or maybe a bit bigger. Okay, and now it's the same thing than the thing is, except you can go much faster. Because with Lightroom it lags. You know, you just make one point and it just lags. But with this on Photoshop, it just goes much faster to take out all this big spot, and it does a great job at it. So yeah, spot removal tool, I love it. And it's funny because whenever you know you are like above f14 or f15, and you have this lens, you know, dust lens sensor, whatever you want to call that, they are in the corners, you know, and more than anywhere else in the corners. Okay, I don't want to do every single one of them. I just want to show you real fast how I do it. I'm just, cleaning up anything that catches the eye, really. Yeah, something that's pretty cool. That's already much better. So you see it doesn't, oops. So if you do something like that, you just press Control Z. Command Z, and it's finito. It's finito, maybe. This is cool. Okay, I love that photo. I really love it. And I had a lot of success with that photo. So Command W to close and save, and it's going to put it back in Lightroom. So it's just a bit faster than doing the quick, the dust thing. So now let me show you where we came from. I'm going to reset that photo. Okay. And the reason I don't do the before and after, because a lot of people ask me, oh, why don't you do the / before and after? That's because I have corrected that photo over and over again before recording the video. And so if I do the before and after, usually you get like, some of my trials of retouching before. Anyway, so this is where we came from. Already a nice photo. And this is where we are. A very flashy sunset, which is perfect to put on 500px and become famous. So send me your JPEGs of before and after, and the winner, the one that I like the most, will get my interior design professional course coming out on Thursday, hopefully, if everything goes right. Thank you very much, and let's get back to my room. Okay guys, I hope you liked that tutorial, and you will send me your best photos of before and after with amazing sunset, and the winner gets my new tutorial on interior design that's coming out next Thursday. Thank you very much. If you can share this podcast to your friends, anybody that would be interested in photography, I think it can help, and it helps me getting this podcast known. Thank you very much for all your support, and I'll see you in the next episode.